Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the Mahabharata character series. We are discussing about Karna. So, after getting the Shakti and losing the Kavach in the interaction with Surya, now Karna felt confident that with this Shakti I'll be able to defeat Arjuna. But he had not expected to see to be encountering Arjuna when he went to Virat. He thought it will be easy win, and that's why he had not carried his Shakti, and he lamented that. And again, when he was defeated, actually, there are several times in the war, or even before the Virat war, also there was a conflict between. Initially, when Drona sees Drona sees Arjuna, he's pleased, and then he says, "Oh, now Drona and all the Kauravas have heard how Arjuna has gone to heaven, and from there has got celestial weapons." So Drona alerts everyone around him, and he says that all of us have to be very careful, otherwise we will be crushed. And even when we are all together, still I don't see much chance of us succeeding against Bibhatsu. So Karana speaks scornfully. He says, "All of you stay away. I alone am enough to crush Partha." So at that time, Drona, Drona gets angry and he says, "Where is your prowess?" And he reminds him of all the times when Arjuna has been bested him, and then he reminds him of what all Arjuna has done independently. And Karna gets angry, and he says, "You always revile me, and you glorify Arjuna because he is your student. And although he is working against us, still you speak in favor of him." Actually, he speaks all this to Kripa. Kripa is defending him. Kripa is cautioning, defending Drona and speaking this. So at that time, when he hears this, Ashwatthama gets angry. And there's almost a fight that happens between Ashwatthama and Karna. But then Bhishma intervenes and Bhishma pacifies both of them. And he says that Kripa has only spoken to caution us, and Karna has only spoken to excite us so that we will fight wholeheartedly. The dissension within an army is its greatest danger. Now we face a great danger from outside, so we cannot afford inner dissension. And he says, "Kripa, please forgive him." And Karna, "Be silent. Drona, you also forgive Kripa." And when Kripa and Drona forgive, then Ashwatthama also forgives. And then things are amicably resolved. But basically, Karna, he's always eager to try to prove his superiority. And especially after speaking these words and striving his best, he challenges Arjuna twice, and both times he is bested. So it's mortifying. And then he's waiting, when will the war take place? And when there is a meeting before the war, at that time again Bhishma minimizes him. And he says he's only Ardharathi because he has lost his Kavach and Kundala. So now when he's overpowered, he will not even survive, he'll be killed. So he's only Ardharathi. And Karna can take it no more. He says, "I am equal to Partha. Why do you deride me like this?" He's so angry with Bhishma. He says that when a war is won, the credit goes to the commander. And because you have derided me, I do not want you to get the credit for the war that I have won. And therefore, I will not fight as long as you are the commander." And he walks out. Duryodhana is exasperated. But he understands the Kshatriya's honor, and he also understands Karna's desire for that honor. So he cannot restrain Karna. And at the same time, he thinks, "I cannot lose Bhishma." So he decides to stay silent. And then Karna, on one side, is angry with Bhishma, but at the same time, he also feels regretful that, "Oh, I have let Duryodhana down." And then eventually, when Krishna comes as Shanti Dut, around that time, Kunti approaches Karna. Now, everybody at that time is trying to avoid war. In one sense, we see that the Pandavas are preparing alliances. They are meeting kings and they are preparing alliances, but at the same time, they are also trying to get peace. So there's a saying, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So of course we don't just hope for the best, we also try for the best. So we try for the best, but we also prepare for the worst. So that's what the Pandavas were doing. They they were trying their best, and there were so many peace negotiations. And Krishna himself coming was the greatest example of the Pandavas striving for peace. But they also knew that if peace doesn't happen, if peace becomes impossible, then they should not be caught napping. So they are also preparing for the worst. They are preparing for the war by getting allies and forming plans. So now Kunti decides to make her own try for peace, or at least for minimization of violence, and she comes to meet Karna at the time when he is known to give charity. So she sees that Karna is in the river, with his hands folded, facing the sun, and chanting prayers to his son. She looks at him just as a mother looks at a son with longing. She has repeatedly seen him on various occasions, but she has never been able to express her maternal feelings out of fear of his reaction. Now that she was elderly, there was not much fear of the world's reprobation, but she feared his reaction, that just as she had turned away from him, he would turn away from her, and that would pain her all the more. And she had felt that as long as Karna was cared for, she was happy that Adhiratha and Radha had cared for him, and now that he had also got royal opulence, she felt happy. But when she saw Karna getting slowly but surely perverted by Duryodhana's bad association, oh, her heart was getting torn. And now, with the war becoming imminent, so she had this meeting, realizing that now Krishna's peace mission had failed and war was inevitable. So that morning itself, she came, and when she had this meeting, she realized that he will die now. So she felt that his death will be far more painful for me than his rejection. Even if he rejects me and lives, that was her mother's love. She could have very peacefully avoided everything and avoided telling him, and let him die without him knowing about his parentage and without suffering the pain of his reprobation, which was sure to come. Now, was she motivated just by the desire of protecting her sons? Was it that she was afraid that Karna is too strong and Karna will kill the Pandavas, and therefore she wanted to tell him to not kill the Pandavas? No, that was, she did not ask anything like this herself. Her goal, we see in her speeches, is actually primarily concern for Karna itself. Of course, she doesn't want to lose any of her sons. What mother would want to? But she was a dharmic lady, and she knew that dharma eventually triumphs. The Pandavas were virtuous and they would win, and their win would mean the death of Karna. She did not want that, and she waited. Karna did prayers for a long time, standing in the sun. Now he, as a Kshatriya warrior, was accustomed to standing in the sun for so long. But Kunti had come alone, discreetly. She did not want anyone to recognize where she was going, what she was doing. And as she was elderly, she could move around without raising any eyebrows. And she had come early morning and she was waiting. The sun was beating on her thin sari, and she was sweating, waiting for her. And finally, Karna finished his prayers and turned around. When he saw Kunti waiting, he was surprised to see the Pandava's mother. He came out. He says, "Welcome, O lady. What can I do for you? I am Karna, the son of Radha and Adhirath, at your service." So Kunti looked down at the ground. When she looked up again, Karna saw that her face was parched, not just by heat, but by sorrow. And then she took faltering steps towards him and she said, "My dear child, do not call yourself the son of Adhirath and Radha anymore. You are my son, born of the great sun god. You were born before my birth, therefore fearing my reputation and my father's, I had to put you away. And then Adhirath and Radha cared for him. You are the eldest of the Pandavas. Oh, my son." She spoke. Karna looked at her with wide, disbelieving eyes. A raging storm arose in his heart. He just clenched, tried to check the storm by putting his hand on his chest, on his head, trying to calm himself. Was this a ruse? Some kind of trick to emotionally weaken him before the war? But he said that was not possible. Kunti was known to be truthful, and she was looking straight in his eyes, and he could see nothing but the truth and the pain of revealing the truth in her eyes. And he started thinking, she was telling he could barely understand the words. Yes, he was understanding them, but he couldn't comprehend them, accept them. He had always wondered who was his real mother. Adhirat and Radha had told him that how when they had found him, he would blaze like a god. And they had said, we are sure that he was sent by, that you have been sent by the gods to the earth to fulfill some extraordinary purpose. Yeah, she had been wondering who would be his mother, but now this Kunti, how could the mother of his enemy, Arjuna, be his mother? It was not possible. Kunti spoke, telling him everything, telling him how he had born with the Kavach and Kundala. And as his skepticism started eroding, his doubt started eroding, suddenly he heard a voice coming from the sun. Oh Karna, what Kunti is saying is true. And do what she tells you to do, because that will be in your best interest. As now, when he heard Suryadev speaking this, he knew Suryadev had no reason to cheat him. So he was convinced. And as Kunti spoke to him, she was telling him that you are the eldest of the Pandavas. You are meant to be the king of the world as a Pandava. But you are sided with Duryodhana. Avaricious and malicious people are leading you on the path of vice. And you will meet destruction with them, my son. This is improper. Please join Yudhishthir and take your right as the eldest Pandava. As this will be, I speak only for your welfare. So Karna, slowly his shock now changed into anger, and he said, I accept that what you have told me is true, but I cannot accept that your intention is true. I cannot accept that you are speaking this for my well-being. He said, you rejected me, and therefore I have been labeled as a Suta's son. I have had to carry the pain of that label throughout my life. What enemy could have done greater harm to me? He says, now, when you discarded me, it was Adhirat and Radha, who, my mother, they raised me like their own child. They are my father and mother. And their other sons after me have seen me as their eldest brother. And they have selected wives for me, and I have got children through them. My whole family is with them. Now I cannot abandon them for one who has abandoned me. Karna felt righteous. He said, Duryodhana depends on me, and how can I give him up right now in the face of battle? He said, you say that you speak for my well-being, but I cannot accept this. And now he faced a dilemma. Kunti was saying that he was speaking for his welfare. Surya was saying that whatever Kunti was speaking for his welfare, but he couldn't accept it. So how could this be for my welfare? How could giving up those who have loved me, those who have given me whatever I have enjoyed, how can I give them up? And he turned towards Kunti and he said, you have come for your own interests. You only want to protect your sons. He couldn't accept that Kunti considered him also her son. He said that I have a rivalry with Arjuna and I cannot avoid fighting with him. Actually, Karna respected Yudhishthir as a virtuous king, and he respected the Bhima and the twins also as great warriors. And he had nothing personal against Arjuna, but his rivalry, which had become enmity against Arjuna, had begun from the point of Drona's rejecting him as a student. So he had felt disappointed, devastated at the rejection. And then when he had got trained under Parshuram and he had come back in the assembly, Drona had not recognized him. This is the same student I had rejected. He felt that he had to prove his greatness to the one who had rejected him, that is Drona. And he felt what greater way than to prove his greatness than by defeating his greatest student, greatest disciple. And when first time he had seen Arjuna exhibiting his archery skills, immediately envy had started in his heart. He said, I have to defeat him. And over repeated encounters, that envy had become more and more intense. And moreover, he had almost taken a word that I will kill Arjuna. So he said, I cannot avoid fighting with Arjuna. He says, either I will kill him or he will kill me. Either way, O Kunti, you will always have 5 sons. I cannot do anything more than this. Now, Kunti had not asked for this. Karna felt duty bound or woe bound that he had said that anyone who comes to me asking for charity, that person will not go empty handed. So I have to give something to her. So he found this as a thing to give to her. Kunti would have liked all 6 of her sons to be there. And if we look at the military prowess, she had come not just to save Arjuna or save Pandavas, because more likely and not that it was Arjuna who would kill Karna. But when she saw that Karna was uh, unfortunately resolute in his misdirected commitment, so she stretched out her arms. And Karna, despite himself, found himself moving forward and they embraced each other the first and the last time. Tears flowed from Kunti's eyes and fell on Karna's body. Karna found his eyes watering also. This was his mother after all. And he was going to hug her for the first and last time. And as after a long embrace they parted, Kunti told her, bade her goodbye and departed. And as he departed, Karna sat and thought about what had happened and how things had transpired. If only Kunti had not rejected him at birth, then his life would have been so different. But alas, what could he do, crying over spilt milk? For Kunti also, in that society, it was not possible for her to keep a son like that. Who would have believed her that the sun god had begotten a child? And then he got a message that Krishna wanted to meet him. And now Karna respected Krishna as a great warrior. And he had heard the sages say that Krishna was God. So he gave that also due consideration. And he was wondering why Krishna wants to meet me. Then at around noon on that day when Krishna was departing after meeting the Kuru elders, the previous day his mission as Shantidut had failed. So Krishna had come with Satyaki on the same chariot, and Karna had come on his chariot near the city gate. From there, Krishna was going to go to Virat. So Krishna desired to talk privately with Karna. So Satyaki got off Krishna's chariot and went to Karna's chariot, and Karna stepped onto Krishna's chariot, and they both started walking. And then Krishna turned towards Karna and said, according to scripture, the firstborn son of a woman, even if he is born before marriage, becomes the son of her husband. Therefore, you are the eldest Pandava and you deserve to be the ruler of the world. So Karna, by siding against the Pandavas and siding with the evil Kauravas, you are not only going against your family, you are going against virtue, and you will meet with destruction. Because you are not Radha's son, you are Kunti's son. Karna nodded gravely. He says, Kunti has told this to me. But he realized what Krishna was speaking. Krishna was asking him, Karna felt, to do defection, to come over to side of the Pandavas. He said, no, he said, for so many years I have enjoyed sovereignty over Anga because of Duryodhana's grace. He says, and depending on me, he has waged this war. And now I am like the boat for the Kurus. When they need me the most, how can I abandon them? For my own gain. Krishna told him that if you come on the side of the Pandavas, being the eldest, you will become the ruler of the whole world. And you will not only become the ruler of the whole world, you will become, he told him, the wife or the husband of Draupadi also, because Draupadi is meant to be shared by all the Pandavas. And Draupadi will approach you also like that. So now Krishna offered Karna the fulfillment of all his desires. Karna always wanted to be recognized by the world as a Kshatriya. Krishna offered him that. And he wanted to be not just recognized as a Kshatriya, but wanted to be a king. Krishna offered him the kingship of the whole world. Now he had coveted Draupadi, but he had not won her. Krishna offered him that also. So he offered him honor, he offered him power, and he offered him a queen. Now, was Krishna trying to allure Karna? Was Krishna trying to. Mm, was Krishna really afraid that Karna will kill Arjuna? Well, naturally, Krishna and Arjuna are affectionate. Krishna is concerned for Arjuna's well-being. But at the same time, if we look at the history, Arjuna has time and again come out as superior to Karna. So that is not a major fear. So till now itself thrice, twice indirectly and once directly. Twice indirectly is Karna was defeated by Drupada and Arjuna defeated Drupada. Karna was defeated by Gandharva and Arjuna defeated Gandharva. And directly, Arjuna defeated Karna at Virat. So that is not a fear. Oh, then why is Krishna doing this? Krishna has actually come as a Shanti Dut not out of fear that the Pandavas will be defeated and killed. He wants to avoid the destruction of the Kuru dynasty. He wants to avoid violence. Now, because of Duryodhana's obstinacy, if the violence cannot be avoided, at least let it be minimized. Now, although there are many formidable Maharathas on the Kaurava side, Bhishma, Drona, Kripa were not inimical, nor Shalya or Bahalika were inimical to the Pandavas. They were all their well-wishers and practically relatives, and affectionate relatives at that. But somehow, circumstantially, for whatever reason, they had to fight against the Pandavas. But they had no animosity towards the Pandavas. Among the Maharathas on the Kuru side, apart from the 100 Kauravas, the only person who had great malevolence, great antipathy towards the Pandavas, who was also Maharatha, was Karna. Shakuni also, of course, disliked the Pandavas, but he was not such a guy. He was not a threat in war. So, Krishna wanted to minimize the violence. And what Krishna offered him was everything that he had dreamt for. So, now actually, Karna felt that I have given my word and I have to keep my word to Duryodhana. He helped me, he gave me this kingdom. Now, yes, it is important to be grateful to anyone who has helped us. But gratitude also has to be seen in the broader context of virtue. Duryodhana had acted maliciously, he had been the personification of adharma when he had dispossessed the Pandavas and dishonored Draupadi. And to stay on the side of adharma just because of some mistaken notion of dharma was tragic and catastrophic. So it was tragic because it was a very wrong choice, it would lead to suffering, and catastrophic because not only would it lead suffering to Karna, but it would cause the war to get more heightened and become more vicious, and it would cause the death of so many millions of warriors. So now, to understand the how Karna's sense of loyalty was misdirected, we know that there are, especially in the poor Islamic countries, the Middle East countries are relatively rich, but Pakistan and Afghanistan are poor. And there often when children, especially male children, are facing starvation or great poverty, the terrorist organizations come to them and they tell them that you join us and we will provide you meals and we will provide you even prestige. In that culture, terrorists are seen as often as heroes who are out to fight to save Islam. That's the idea. So now, some of those starving children may not even know how malicious these jihadis are, the suicide bombers are, how they prey upon innocents by bombing them and destroying them. So at that time, they may just be thinking, the poor children might just be thinking of their own survival. At that time, they may accept the offer and be grateful for it. And yes, if somebody has saved us from starvation, we should be grateful. But does that mean that one becomes bound by lifelong gratitude to that person, even when that person is doing something which is totally wrong? That doesn't make sense at all. So gratitude has to be seen in the context of larger virtues. Friendship is good, but say Osama bin Laden blew up the WTC, and Mohammed Mehta was one of the suicide squad people who abducted the plane and caused it to go into the WTC. Now, is Muhammad bin Atta's faithful friendship to Osama bin Laden to be lauded? Oh, that was a friendship which caused destruction. So same way, now Duryodhana was the personification of adharma, and although some people say that he was ruling quite well, there are other sources. The Mahabharata itself does not indicate. So secondary literature indicate diversely. Some people say that Duryodhana was exploiting the citizens because his focus was on preparing for war, and others say that because he wanted to ingratiate himself to the citizens, he wanted them he also to become he wanted to become popular like the Pandavas. He was giving charity, but either way, he was not caring for the citizens out of any noble intention. He was caring for them just to, if at all he was caring for them. There are some respected scholars who say that the citizens were suffering terribly under Duryodhana. But the fact that a person could, in a public assembly, have an honorable woman dishonored and disrobed, as a person, if that sort of thing can come in a person's mind, not only come in a person's mind, a person can do that and do that in an assembly and do that in an assembly where one's elders are present, and that person has such a power of fear that nobody opposes that person. If that person gets complete unrestricted power, what will such a person do on citizens? If just the mind turns in a particular direction, so it will wreak havoc. So it's the personification of dharma. And to stay faithful in friendship to such a person in the name of some sort of words, that is actually choosing the word of honor over a life of honor. Now, by staying on Duryodhana's side, Karna would have chosen, Karna chose the word of honor. Yes, I gave my word to Duryodhana, so I'll keep my word. But then, did he lead a life of honor? No, by choosing the side of one who was adharmic, who was vicious, not only that not Karna make a wrong choice, Karna actually increased the viciousness of Duryodhana, because Duryodhana would not have been so obstinate if he did not have uh, confidence in Karna being on his side and Karna's competence in fighting. And actually, it was not just that Karna siding with Duryodhana increased Karna's viciousness. Actually, it spoiled back and it spoiled Karna too, and Karna also became vicious in many ways, which is contrary to his virtuous nature. So, in fact, Karna spoke this later in his conversation with Arjuna. He said, with Krishna over here, he said, oh, he's rejected Krishna's proposal for peace, proposal for coming over to his side. But what was his logic? His logic was all skewed, it was all distorted. So he chose a word of honor, but Krishna offered him a life of honor. How a life of honor? Not just honor in the sense that people would have honored him, but also that he would have done the right thing. The right thing is to choose dharma, not just one's conception of dharma based on some notion that I have given my word. A word should not necessarily bind us to adharmic activities. So Karna tragically chose a word of honor over a life of honor, and his misdirected sense of loyalty made his life tragic. So Karna, he said, I will not choose to abandon Duryodhana out of greed for gain. Then he righteously said, nor will I abandon him out of fear. Oh, Keshava, I know that the Pandavas are virtuous and they will win the war. So because of the vicious way Kauravas have treated the Pandavas, especially Draupadi, they are going to be destroyed. No, or it is only out of the desire to please Duryodhana that I spoke those harsh words to Draupadi, and I regret them bitterly. And he said that the Gandiva fire is going to destroy the Kaurava warriors. He said Bhima will kill Duryodhana, and Karna will and Arjuna will kill me. And he says Yudhishthira will soon preside over a sacrifice in which the Kauravas will become the sacrificial offerings. And I have seen this also in a dream. I saw that Yudhishthira dressed in opulent robes, swallowing the earth and rising to a palace with 1,000 pillars. And Arjuna and Duryodhana and his brothers dressed in red colored robes, blood colored robes, going towards Yamana's abode. So I know that we will be destroyed, but I will not give up my friendship to Duryodhana. So seeing Karna's determination, tragic determination, Krishna laughed. He said, "Oh Karna, then will you not accept the kingdom as I have offered to you? Will you prefer death instead?" And Karna remained silent. Krishna understood. Krishna said, "When one is about to be destroyed, one's intelligence misfires. Vinashakale viparita buddhi." Said, "Then we will meet on the warfield. 7 days from now, there is the full moon. Let us meet at that time and let the war begin." So, Karna was confused by Krishna's intentions. Why was he trying to make him defect? What was his intention? So, he was suspicious of others. He could not accept that Krishna was acting out of desire for his well being alone. And by rejecting Krishna, he was rejecting not only the chance for life, not only the chance for royal glory, but also the chance for redemption. Karna, if he had not got mixed with Duryodhana, if he had not been spoiled by Duryodhana's bad association, he would have lived a life of virtue. But unfortunately, by Duryodhana's association, he had got spoiled. But now, what Krishna was offering him was to redeem himself, to come to the side of virtue and lead a life of virtue. Unfortunately, because of his warped reasoning, Karna thought that Krishna was offering him was happening defection instead of redemption, and he self-righteously rejected the right thing and embraced the wrong, and with it, he embraced death. So, what happened in the Kurukshetra war? We'll see in our next session. Thank you. Hare Krishna.